All right. Well, today we're going to be talking about a really cool thing. It is eating and digestion when you think about grass. Now, when you think about eating grass, do you guys think it's easy or hard to eat grass? Feel free to put it in the chat. And what do you think, Peregrine? Would you find it easy to eat some grass?
So when I think about eating, I don't think about eating grass. I know that there are animals that eat grass. And if you have any ideas in the chat about animals that eat grass, be sure and share them with us. But when I think about eating grass, I don't know, it doesn't seem it seems a little bit hard to do. It seems like I would have a lot of chewing to do. We had a friend who was saying that a cow is an animal that eats grass.
Yeah, what are some other examples of animals that eat grass? I would agree. It's a lot of chewing, and it might be easy to find grass for sure, but it might be a little harder to chew it and get it down to tiny little bits.
Yeah, I don't think that I could heat grass up in a microwave to make it nice and hot and delicious. But you're right that I wouldn't have to go to the grocery store. It would be right there.
Definitely. So there's definitely a positive that it's all around us, but it's kind of hard to eat, actually. Yeah, that's exactly actually what we are going to think a little bit about today is what happens when you're eating grass? Do you just throw it in a normal stomach? Like, can we eat it? Or are there special ways and special stomachs and styles of eating grass? And that's exactly what our activity is today. Now, I know that we have a list of materials. Do you want to start with that, Peregrine, and a little bit of a variation you realized?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to go to my experiment can to show you some of the materials that I have. So I'm on my experiment can here. For this experiment, I have a cup of water. I've got a bowl here, and I've actually got another bowl, but it's full of stuff. Mine is full of pretzels, and we'll talk about why pretzels in just a second. I've also got a spoon. I've got 2 plastic bags. I've got a little bit of a tray or a plate here, a flat surface. And I've also got a towel to wipe up just in case I need it. So we're talking about mouths and stomachs in this little lab at home, right? So we've got some different containers that could be our mouth versus our stomach. When I tried using my plastic bag as a mouth and I was chewing up my pretzels, I found that it poked holes in my bag. So for me, if you're doing this along and you've got a plastic bag, I would say pretend that your bowl or your cup is your mouth. But Caroline, you have something a little bit different. Can you show us?
Yeah, absolutely. So similar to Peregrine, I'm going to switch actually to experiment cam as well.
Great.
Similar to Peregrine, I also have these bowls and some bags. However, my bags are a little bit thicker and they're more sturdy because they are reusable bags. So if you have reusable bags that you want to use, we can go ahead and use those as our mouths to crush some stuff up as we chew it. And then these will be our stomachs.
Perfect. So you can use your cup or your bowl as a stomach or mouth, or you can use your bag as a stomach or mouth, depending on what you have. We'll just say stomach or mouth. It doesn't matter which one, whichever one works better.
Yes, whichever one is more sturdy can be your mouth, and whichever one is just going to be a vessel for holding things can be your stomach.
Perfect. Now we're using some pretzels here today because maybe pretzels have a few things in common with grass, maybe just a few. And there were some other materials we suggested, as long as it's something that doesn't turn soggy in water immediately. So maybe certain kinds of cereals or other kinds of snack crackers. We just didn't want something that if you put it in water, it would immediately crumble. Because the thing about grass is that it's kind of hard to chew. It's made up of all of these fibers that can make it hard to digest. So a pretzel is a little bit similar in that we can crunch it and chew it up, but that it's a little bit harder than, say, like a saltine cracker, which might just turn into mush as soon as we put it in water.
Exactly. Yes. And our pretzels today are our food, are basically our grass. All right. Now, you guys are welcome to follow alongside with us and or watch and make guesses as we go. But what we're going to do today is do two different animals or types of animals that eat grass. We're going to try and mimic how they eat it. So the first one, which we're going to do today, is called a hind gut fermenter. Now, that's a crazy word, but it just means that they do a lot of their eating or energy getting inside of their gut, and that pretty much as soon as it goes in, it comes out. So we're going to go ahead and get started as long as everyone's ready.
Sounds good to me. I was just going to put this in the chat. We said a hind gut fermenter means they get energy from their food by digesting it in their gut or in their stomach.
Perfect. That is a great word. And we will, as we go along, start thinking about what this might mean. Okay, so everyone ready? If you are, we're going to go ahead and grab our food, a little handful of pretzels, and we're going to put it in our mouth. So my mouth is this bag, as we mentioned, but peregrines might be a little bit different. They have their bowl. So again, grab your mouth, put your pretzels in. And now, when you guys think of your mouths, are your mouths dry or is there something special about your mouth? Feel free to put it in the chat. And also feel free to give your thoughts as well, Peregrine.
Sure. I guess when I'm thinking about if I'm eating something, if I'm chewing something, especially if it's a food I really like, I don't think my mouth is dry. I think my friend in the chat said, my mouth's wet. It's wet with spit.
Exactly. Now that's the same with all kinds of animals. And these mammals here, which are critters like us that eat grass, they also have wet mouths or spit. And that's because spit has a special little bit called an enzyme that just helps to start breaking down our food so that way we can eat it as we chew it. So what we're going to do here is add a little bit of water to our mouth. A tiny little bit, just enough to make it a little wet, kind of like spit.
Perfect. I've got a little bit of spit in my mouth. I've got the food in my mouth. What do we do?
Wonderful.
We've got our food, we've got our spit. What's the next part for eating?
Yes, what is next, everybody? Ooh, good word here for spit, saliva. Ooh. Someone just put that in the chat. Saliva is another wonderful word.
Perfect. We've got our saliva, we've got our spit, we've got our food. What's the next step, my friends? Can we swallow it?
Thoughts? Yeah, do we just swallow it whole like this? Do you just swallow the pretzel or the grass?
I think, Caroline, you have to chew it for, oh yeah.
Yes, exactly. I think you have to chew it. All right, well, that's what we're gonna do here. So go ahead and either grab your spoon or some sort of utensil or seal your bag. And we're gonna go ahead and start chewing it.
Perfect.
So I'm gonna crunch mine and just break it up a little bit with a little bit of saliva. Now this would be a great time to have a paper towel nearby in case you spill a little bit of your spit. And I have mine all chewed up a little bit. You're just gonna kind of coarsely chew it. So just give it a little bit of breakup. You don't have to make it all mush.
I'm noticing, Caroline, that much like if I were chewing grass, I'm finding that not super easy to mush up. I don't know if any of our friends are at home are doing it, but I'm having to push it pretty hard, right? And that's kind of like how it's grass is so full of fibers that it's also kind of hard to chew, but I have broken it up into pieces.
Absolutely. And I had the same thing here. I have to put my full pressure of my hand on it, press it against the table in order to chew it. All right. Well, if you have chewed your food, friends, what we're going to do next is we are going to put it in our stomach. So my stomach, I'm going to go ahead and put it in. We're just gonna pour it in. It's going down your throat or your little critter's throat now that they've eaten some grass. And, oh, it's in there.
Perfect. And now that it's in the stomach, your stomach's not going to be dry either, right?
No, right, friends? What is in the stomach? Do we have just a dry pile of food? We have a wonderful answer in the chat. Someone said acid. Yes, that is one of the many things that is in our stomach, something to help break down food that you have. Now it can, yeah.
We have acid, we have enzymes, kind of like in our saliva. We've got water, so we're going to add.
We're going to add some water to our stomach.
Just a little bit.
Not too much, but just a little to give it a little soupier bit. And then we're going to just shake it around to kind of mimic it spending some time in there. If you were a real grass eater, an enzyme helps to, we just got a wonderful question in the chat, but an enzyme is what helps to break down your foods. That way you can get all the good nutrients and energy from it. So when you eat your vegetables, an enzyme will help you get all the food and nutrition that you want from your vegetables.
An enzyme is a chemical that helps break things down. Perfect. So I've been breaking things down in my stomach. What happens next, Caroline?
All right. Well, yes, just like humans, we also got that in the chat. So since we are our hind gut fermenter, as we said, actually what happens now is we just dispose of what's left. We've gotten our nutrients from it. It's gone through our stomach and our gut, which is where we create excrement or poop. And now it just gets disposed of or pooped out.
So we've gotten some nutrition from it, and now it goes out onto your plate or into your other container. I'm going to go ahead and plop that right out here. Kind of gross looking.
A little gross.
Part of the experiment. Definitely.
Now, does anyone notice anything? Is this just plain mush? Do you notice any shape to it? Is there anything? Is it all the same shape? Is it smooth?
Well, I'm noticing that there's a lot of there's still some pretzel shapes in mine. It's looking kind of lumpy and pretzel-y.
Yes, I am also noticing that. And friends in the chat are saying similar. They're saying they're all different, kind of lumpy. Yeah, now that's something that you actually will notice when, as we will discuss soon, a hind gut fermenter poops, is you might see some of the shape of the food because they just chew it a little bit and then it goes right through, which is really cool because you can kind of know what they're eating. And it seems a little weird though. Why might you just want to go as fast as possible, chew your food and just put it right through?
So we know it's a food that's hard to chew. You chew it up and you swallow it and you digest it a little bit, but then you just kind of let it go and maybe you move on to the next thing. Maybe it's good for getting more food into you.
Yes, and we got a friend in the chat saying it's good to get it out. Yes, exactly. Combined with what Peregrine just said, if you just spend a little bit of time on the food, that means you can get more time spent on getting more food. So your goal is just to eat as much food as possible, even if you're not doing it super well.
So you're not getting as much nutrition, but you can eat more of the food. Okay, well, what's the other type? We said there was a different type, Carol.
Yes, wonderful. So there's one more type, or another type that we're going to talk about today, called a ruminant. Now these guys are fun, and someone mentioned actually earlier a cow. Now ruminants are, including cows, an animal that eats their food and then chews it again after it goes into their stomach. They actually regurgitate or barf up their food to chew it again. So we're gonna go ahead and do that with our stomach again. So you can either use a new stomach or the same stomach, just so long as you've got a place to put some fresh pretzels.
So we're going to do it like a ruminant now, and I'm going to type that into the chat.
Yes, a ruminant. And yes, the water did turn yellow. Mine turned yellow as well, as you can see here. You're getting all the digestion. All right, so I'm going to move my hind gut fermenter poop. We have a new mouth here. All right, so with your mouth and your pretzels, add a little bit of saliva. And then go ahead and repeat. We're gonna chew again, or chew for the first time for this guy.
All right, so we're a different animal now, but the first step is the same, where we still want to chew.
Exactly.
And it's just as kind of difficult as it was the first time. We've got chopping to do.
Yes, so much chopping and mashing.
Something that we're not really able to do with our equipment, but that we would see if we looked at the teeth of grass-eating mammals, is they're very good at grinding. They have big, flat teeth that are great for grinding. I just have this spoon, which is not as good for grinding, but I'll do my best.
Definitely. That is one really cool thing. There are a lot of cool things about those grass-eating animals out there that I encourage you to look at.
I'm trying to grind it by kind of mushing it up against the side of the bowl a little. It's probably a little easier for your type of bag, Caroline, just kind of mushing it up.
Definitely.
So we've been chewing it, and then what's the next step after we've chewed it?
So now that we've chewed it, we're gonna go ahead and deposit it into our stomach. So it's gonna go down our throat into our stomach. And we're gonna go ahead and, like last time, add a little bit of water to just give it some of those stomach juices. Okay.
Water.
Now don't get too much water, because you're gonna have to put it back in your mouth, but a little bit of water. We're gonna swirl it around for a bit, or squish it around if you have it in a bag, just lightly, just kind of getting it wet.
So it's digesting a little bit, just like in our hind gut fermenters. Right? But then we're going to do something else. Instead of just getting rid of it.
Yep. Now we are going to go ahead and barf it back into our mouth.
Now, when we say barfing it, we're not saying that they vomit all over the place.
No.
It's that they throw up kind of a little bit of their food at a time, right? So just about a mouthful at a time. It's not like it goes all over the place, it just goes right back into their mouth. Because then what do they do with it?
Because as soon as it goes back into their mouth, when they're resting or just standing around, they can just go ahead and chew it a little more. Just continue to reconsider the food, basically. Start thinking about it again and chew it around to just get a little bit more broken down.
So we're chewing our food for the second time here. Is it similar to the first time you chewed it, or is it a little bit different?
Yes. Is anyone noticing any differences in shape or texture or easiness to break down?
We have one friend saying, ew, it looks kind of gross. And I agree, doesn't look great. I don't think I'm going to eat any of this pretzel grass mash here, rather. But that maybe it is a little bit easier to chew.
Yes, definitely.
Not hard.
And we have a friend in the chat saying it's a little softer. I would agree. It's a little bit easier to chew, just like Peregrine said. And I don't know about you guys, but my mouth, it's starting to get a little bit less pretzel shaped.
Oh, that's a good point. It's looking more just like mush. So I'm going to keep doing this. Now, we're only doing it for a minute or so, but a real ruminant, an animal that is really a ruminant, would chew it for hours, right?
Yes, absolutely. A real ruminant would chew it for super long, and it would stay in their stomach for a while too.
So they chew it and chew it. So wait, so when they chew it the second time, what's the next step, Caroline?
So once they chew it the second time, it will go back into their stomach as they swallow it. And we can go ahead and do that if you're ready. Yeah. And I encourage you guys to play around with the amount of time that you do this if you are to continue this experiment, and how much you put in water-wise, etc. But we're going to go ahead and pour it back into the stomach.
Lots of different variables there. Yes, so it's back in the stomach for, it's the second time here.
Yep, back in the stomach. And then it's going to go through, some ruminants have a good number of stomachs, but it's going to travel through their digestive system, pretty much the same. And it will come out the other side similar to what it looked like once it was chewed again.
So now, if we're saying they've swallowed it for the second time, and now they've digested it, they have gotten a lot of nutrients out of it, and now they're going to get rid of the rest of the stuff. So let's go ahead, have them evacuate all of this stuff, meaning they're going to poop. So we're saying this is everything left over.
Yep, that's exactly what we're going to do here. Now I'm going to put it on the same plate as my hind gut fermenter. If you remember, this is the hind gut fermenter poop. So our guy who just chewed it once. And now here comes my ruminant poop.
We have a great observation in the chat. We have someone saying it looks kind of more liquidy.
Definitely. Yes. Does anyone notice any kind of differences? The liquid is a perfect observation. Do you guys see differences in shape or texture?
Caroline, yours looks so different.
Definitely, yes. This one, I can't even see the pretzels in the ruminants. And same with yours actually too, Peregrine. It's really hard to see the pretzels in the second one.
Yeah, this one I can definitely see more of the shape of them. I can see the inside and the outside colors. For this one, it's more mixed up. We have a great observation in the chat. One friend says it's more mushy. We have someone saying it's grosser. I would agree.
Same.
It's pretty gross looking. Okay. So is this similar to a real ruminant's excrement?
Actually, it is would be even more soupy if this were a real ruminant, because they're really good at making it almost the same consistency throughout. So you wouldn't be able to see what kind of food a ruminant ate. They can just turn it into whatever their excrement looks like. It's not going to have any resemblance to the food that they ate, because they just chew it up so much. And if you notice here, that's kind of what we got here. There's not much shape left from the pretzels, whereas with our hind guts, you're almost always going to see a little bit of whatever they ate.
That's so cool. So there's different ways to eat grass. One of the ways is just to eat a lot of grass, right? You chew it up, you swallow it, you digest it quickly, you get rid of the rest of the stuff, and then you get right back to eating. That's hind gut. But some animals will chew up their food, they'll swallow it, then they'll throw it up and chew it again, and they will digest it again. And so they get more from their food. They can't eat as much food because if you're chewing your food for hours, you can't eat more during that time.
Exactly.
So there's different strategies. That is so interesting.
It's so cool. And what's really cool actually is that these, oddly enough, two strategies often relate to the number of toes that you see an animal using. So with your animals that are just grass eaters or just little greenery eaters, what you see, I'm going to go ahead and switch back to regular camera.
Sure.
What you see with your hind gut fermenters is that they are actually animals like horses. Now, how many toes are on a single foot of a horse? If you had to think about it, can you count toes? Are there a lot of toes? There are. That was a wonderful answer in the chat. It looks like there's almost 0 toes. So you see one big hoof, right? So that is a single toe or an odd toe. the number of toes per foot that you see, yes, someone said one in the chat, the number of toes that you see actually relates to their digestion. So odd toes are your hindgut fermenters. Their food goes one way. So your horses, your rhinos, you usually see about 3 toes. And then your ruminants are often your even toes. So your giraffe, where they have a little split foot, or your deer, where they have a split foot as well. Now, it's not a perfect rule. Well, I will share the name of the type of animal that we're talking about here with even versus odd toed. It is ungulate in the chat. And feel free to look into them. They are the ones who eat mainly this grass and other leafy things. And that's your even, eat it again, and odd, one way. Sometimes your evens don't eat it again, though.
Interesting. Interesting stuff. It kind of shows us how they're all related. Well, I love doing this experiment. I know that I'd love to do it some different ways. I want to try seeing how long I can mush it up in my mouth. I know I can't, or in my mouth, right? I know that I can't do hours like an actual ruminant, but I wonder if I spent 5 whole minutes crushing it up, would it be even more soupy? These are things that you can continue to try at home to chew or not chew like an ungulate, like a grass-eating mammal.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, friends.
Yeah,
we loved having you.
Thank you so much for being here, Caroline. Thank you so much for guiding us through this activity about learning about eating things and sometimes eating things again, and what happens on the other end, and how that may or may not relate to a number of toes. This is so cool. Friends, thank you so much for participating this week. I hope you'll join us again next week for Lab at Home, when we will be doing a really cool experiment about sound and about voices, human voices. So I hope you'll be able to join us then. In the meantime, we'll see you later.